So there I was, watching Legend of Vox Machina, when I realized... New character.
Listen, I'm sorry.
This seems... familiar.
Greetings and salutations. I am Tiberius Stormwind.
No, that's not possible.
Tiberius the Half-Chunk. Let's talk about that guy. Critical Role's forgotten problem player.
She's a sorcerer. A red dragon-blood sorcerer.
I'm from Draconia.
She has a problem with Aurora and Hina.
Oh, no. Seriously, Matthew? Come on! What?
She's haughty and overconfident. She got smoked by Vormgall. Did the writers put Tiberius in the show as a lesbian? Nah. I decided I want to submit one of my horror stories. Sorry if it's long. Bro, you're not even like half the length of the longest one in this video. You're good. When I was in college, I had made friends with a guy who was a longtime dungeon master. Let's call him Dan, for both D&D and Pathfinder. I really wanted to get into both, but previously didn't know anyone who had the same interests. I'd only known Dan for a few months by that point, but we hung out frequently after class, and we got along really well. One day, he told me he was running a Pathfinder campaign with some friends, and they were even looking for another player. I was super excited and asked if I could join his campaign. Even though I was a complete newbie, he told me that they were very early in the campaign and would be happy to show me the ropes. He did, however, warn me that I would be the only girl in the group.
Oh no, not again.
I had a lot of male friends, so I told him it wouldn't be an issue and that I was looking forward to meeting them. Dan got me up to speed in the campaign's world, helped me create my character, and we planned a way to get my character in with the party. They were stowaways on a ship to the next town, and my character, who had a similar goal, was hidden in a crate nearby. The idea would be that I would come out of the crate thinking the coast was clear, while they were actually sneaking around in the hold. When I showed up to the session, I was eager, but a little nervous, since I was about to play a game with no experience, and it was with strangers. Dan's friends, there were 3 of them, seemed nice enough when I arrived at the table. The nightmare started when we actually began the game. Things suddenly didn't go the way Dan had described to me. The other players continued to sneak around the hold and were looting the place, conveniently ignoring my crate. I patiently waited for my turn to make my entrance. After about 20 minutes of them mucking around, I asked Dan if I could, come out of the crate. He told me I would need to wait, so I waited. For another 15 minutes, I tried to take initiative and told Dan that I would like to open the crate and check if the coast was clear. He told me that the crate had been nailed shut by the crew earlier. Wait, what, did she just not notice? Nah, probably fine. I was blindsided by this. He didn't say that happened at all previously. I asked if I could try to break open the crate to try and escape. He told me that the space was too cramped for you to get any leverage, so your blows are too weak to break the crate. Frustrated, I decided to have my character just call for help. The rest of the party actively ignored me, left the hold, effectively abandoning my character. I asked them why they would leave. I mean, story-wise, it only makes sense. They were illegally on the ship, but wasn't I supposed to join their party? They gave me shrugs and non-committal answers before Dan spoke up. Honestly, I didn't think you would stay this long. I asked him what he meant. His friends proceeded to tell me how I had led Dan on by pretending to be interested in tabletop, and I was just an attention whore who wanted guys to fawn over her. I asked Dan if that's how he felt about me, and he told me that he had expected this kind of behavior from a girl, and his friends wanted to prank me as revenge. I know your secret, and I'm gonna expose you to men across the world. You may have found me out, but it's too late. My feminine wiles have already lured in nerds and simps. Say it ain't so. That's why I invested hundreds of dollars of my money into these interests. Not because of myself, of course, but for you, the men. And soon, I will unleash my ultimate weapon. No, You can't mean... Yes, I'll lure them in with my cosplay so that I can get OnlyFans subscriptions. Oh God, no! Hey, dude, are you good? You slut! Whoa. You are only here to manipulate men. You are a disgrace. Why don't women ever want to talk to me? Dan had never expressed any romantic interest in me. When Dan and I met, I was with my boyfriend, who I introduced him to. He had never acted weird around me up until this point. I was stunned and left the table in tears. I never spoke to Dan again, although he did make several attempts to smooth things over with me, which I actively ignored. The happy ending to this was that this was many years ago. I was nervous to try tabletop again after such a massive betrayal from someone I considered a friend, but I've joined 2 different D&D groups, one with my boyfriend and now fiance. Congratulations, by the way. And we've been playing in both games together for nearly a year now. We're having a blast. Thanks again for reading my horror story. You're welcome. Thanks for submitting. This just reeks of that nice guy crap. Ugh, women are all these dastardly, seductress demons, while us men are just innocent nerds who are being preyed upon. Dan is in fact not a nice dude. He's trying to smooth things over, but it's just not gonna work. You are actively participating in a prank that hinges on this person being a manipulative wench, when she did nothing but express interest in one of your hobbies. It's funny too because so many men are confused when they don't get another date after they spend the first date never shutting up about their hobbies, their interests, their life, talking on and on for hours and hours. But when a woman actually does show interest in that hobby, she's just manipulating you and faking it to get a guy. Oh my God. What do you want? A woman who's just gonna sit there and listen to you like a mindless drone for hours on end? I mean, yeah, that is what some of these guys want. And that's stupid. A family member of mine had been wanting to do a Horde of the Dragon. Why do people do this to yourselves? Don't you know that my personal opinion on Horde of the Dragon Queen is absolute fact? Yeah, they wanted to do a Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign for some reason. And they finally got a couple of people to join and needed one more person. So I joined, as I had been wanting to do D&D for a while, but never had a chance. Everyone else in the group had already made their characters and backstories, so I had a one-on-one session with a DM to make my character. Character creation went badly, to say the least, as the DM had strict guidelines on what I was allowed to play. I had wanted to play a drow, but was shut down because drow are evil, and there aren't any evil characters allowed in this group. Damn, even I know who Dritz is. So I chose a Moon High Elf. As for class, everyone else in the group had chosen melee close range characters, so I was forced to play Wizard, and when it came to alignment, I was not allowed to pick any sort of alignment with chaotic in it, nor was I allowed to play true neutral because true neutral characters never go on adventures.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So I was stuck playing lawful neutral. I could not get over not being able to make a character exactly how I wanted them to be, since I wanted a character that would fit in the group, but honestly, that should have been the red flag that got me to not play with the group in the first place. So the first session comes around, and it's the first time I've ever met the other members. It's been years, so I don't remember their classes super well, but I know there was a paladin and rogue. I feel like it's also important to mention that I was a teenager at the time. Everyone else was at least 10 years my senior. Everything starts off as fine as it can be for a bunch of teenagers playing a game. However, during a lull in combat fighting raiders in a village, my character wanted to make sure the children got to safety, which led to the members of the group making remarks that my character was a diddler of the kidlers.
Honey, where are you? Libby!
Wow, Superman, this is really giving Dr. Disrespect, okay? Absolutely disgusting behavior. Mind you, my character was actually meant to be close to my age in real life, and her backstory, her entire village was also murdered by cultists, including her younger sister right in front of her, and she spent years as a hermit studying who the cultists and what they were after. Not only that, but when I tried to explain my backstory and everything about my character, they just gave me looks and said, uh-huh. Sure. Red flag number 2, ignored. I kind of just brushed off the first session because I really wanted to play D&D, and due to scheduling issues, the second session took a while to happen. When I showed up for the second session, no one else had arrived, and it was around 9 p.m. The DM told me that the others would be late, so I stuck around and waited for 3 hours. By the time the session started, I was extremely tired due to how late it was and kind of mentally checked out a bit, as not only was I tired, the DM's toddler daughter was there and had taken a great interest in bothering me. Kid aside, at the start of the session, our characters decided to go after the raiders from the last session to make sure that they didn't return to the village, and during that combat, none of my attacks ever seemed to do anything. I tried to cast like a fire blast of some sort, only to be told that the kobolds were just out of my reach. Luckily, the DM was nice enough to say that the kobolds were so frightened by the magical display that they ran away, but the experience of trying to cast spells really killed any sort of positive feelings I would have towards a spellcasting class. The melee classes get to do their thing. They kill the brunt of the enemies. We head back to the village to get the reward. At this point, I was sleep deprived and barely holding on when asked what reward I would want. I asked in character for just like some apples, only to be berated by the group. Red flag 3, also ignored. Session 3 rolls around and 2 of the members are late as usual while the third just doesn't show up and is instead replaced by their friend who plays the other person's character for them. I don't actually remember what any of the session was because the DM basically ignored me and ignored the new person. I try to chat with the new person, try and get them up to speed with everything since the DM obviously hadn't done that, and I could see the DM was always looking over at me, annoyed.
Just trying to make sure I'm not too loud. So this is your bonus to your weapon attack damage. So whenever you roll damage, you add this.
Measly player dares to explain the world to the new guy? He dares to assist me in my DMing? I will plan my revenge!
Wait, hey, where did everyone go? Bro, everyone left. You've been staring at us for like 3 hours. Is everything okay? Well,
we were sitting at a big table, and the new person and I were pretty far away and not talking loud at all, so it wasn't like I was talking over them, as they were talking to the other characters. That session ended pretty quickly as the new person just wasn't super invested in what happened, and the DM was getting pretty worked up. Luckily for me, there wasn't another session after that. At the end, it pretty much soured D&D for me and is basically what made me never want to do anything that depended on magic again to this day. While yeah, the sessions were really bad and Horde the Dragon Queen kinda sucks. Do you know what that is? It's the feeling of validation. The people I played with were also just not great. Not only were there the comments, the group as a whole treated me like a nuisance and would also smoke right in my face and vent about mature topics that I did not need to know about, so yeah, not all great. I've since then done a GURPS RPG with a couple of friends, and it didn't go absolutely perfect, but it was fun. It has taught me that I prefer solo RPGs, even if playing with friends isn't awful. Baldur's Gate 3, that's fantastic. Hey, good for you. At the end of the day, even though I recommend games like Draw Steel, Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons to anybody because I love these group games, not everybody does. Alright, some people would prefer to go solo, and that's why I'm glad that games like BG3 also exist. I'm sure the group were just having a gaffe with the Dr. Disrespect type comments, especially since the writer is a teenager, so it would really not make any sense. Though, I will say, when I was 19, someone called me a PDF file just for watching Stranger Things, so it's possible. But even if it was a joke, it doesn't matter, man. Like, those kind of jokes are not gonna land if you're talking to a stranger. It's just gonna be weird, and it might drive them away from the hobby for good. To set the stage, for the past few years, I have run a few online games, always recruiting players from the LFG subreddit! Due to my rigorous process of posting a Google Drive survey, filtering those for voice interviews on Discord, and then picking my players from the people I speak with, I haven't really run into the particular horror stories of that subreddit. Well, as a DM, I haven't. My play experiences are horror stories for another day, though. I pride myself on filtering abilities. Matt Mercer has voices and lore, Brendan Lee Mulligan has improv and making calls on the fly, but my super DM power is getting a bunch of random people together that vibe well from the cesspool that is an LFG. But I would not be sending this if my track record were perfect. The people in the story are my friend, who I played D&D with before, and he joined with his character, a Shadar Kai Sorlock, using the Shadow Sorcerer subclass, and a Warlock patron called the Shadow Cat, and oh my god, I get it, Reggie, got it. Her name was Felani, and that's how I will refer to him going forward. One random player off Reddit was playing a cool Strength Ranger Drake Warden build. His character's name was Valisar. Our second random player, who was playing a Rock Gnome Evocation Wizard / Artillerist Artificer. His character's name was Locus. Our third random player, who was playing a Fox-based Shifter, Way of the Shadow. Her character's name was Ketu. And the star of our show, the problem player, an ASMR Sorcerer Paladin named Azrael, which is the most problem player name my ass has ever heard. The Divine Soul Sorcerer had yet to pick an oath due to the level we started at, not all obvious foreshadowing that he did not make it to that level up. I had paired everyone off with each other. Valisar and Azrael were starting knowing each other, Kedu and Locus, and then technically Felani was going to be paired with another random from Reddit, but he dipped before the campaign started, as upon hearing further world lore, I guess he just decided it wasn't quite his vibe. My setting does have a bit of Magitech to it, so I understand if it's not what someone's looking for, if they want more like Lotur-esque fantasy. Now, right from the get-go, Azrael was super gun-ho about how Valisar was his lifelong friend, that he would basically swear his life to if he had a chance. Meanwhile, Valisar's player realistically was just like, they kind of had the vibe they were work friends at best. They met in my world's version of Sigil, came to the material plane together as both were exiled from their respective factions on that plane, and that was that. Perhaps they did 1 or 2 jobs together to get their footing, but at the start of the campaign, they had not seen each other for years. And again, Valisar just kind of saw it as a work friend situation. On top of this, Azrael's player insisted that the deity Azrael worshipped had to be widely accepted, always searching for temples, not understanding that no, Learvar, the Lady of Pain, goddess of punishment, a deity of the knowledge and death domains, gatekeeper of the 9 hells, is not a deity you're gonna find like open temples to. But it's like, Gortash, why are there not BDSM temples right next to the children's schools? This is unacceptable! At best, the paladin order he was trying to be a part of would keep deities like that for paladins they could keep on leashes, like Suicide Squad style. It's not open worship. The icing on the cake was his backstory. In hindsight, reading it months later, I was recruiting newer players to our table because said table had dwindled due to life circumstances of said players. But this backstory is filled with red flags. Ultimately, I did a mass cleanse of my Google Drive and no longer had the document, or I'd toss it in for reading and some context. But yeah, TLDR, it was an edgy anime protagonist level backstory, and I should have seen the main character energy coming from a mile away. At the time, it just seemed like enthusiasm about my world's lore and was really, getting into his character. Then came the out of character comments that kicked it all off. My friend shared his art for Felani, which I admit had her in some semi-revealing clothing, but no more than like a League of Legends splash art. It's just your average like hot witch fantasy art trope. It's nothing crazy, but Azrael's player would not let go of this. Oh, so that's why we have those misogynistic dress codes in schools. Because, like, if I see a woman's elbow, or God forbid, her thigh, I and every man would explode with horn. He's not letting this go. Keep this in mind. It's a mystery mouse-tool that will be used later. Mouse-tool? Well, that gave me no context. The last bit of context into what type of player Azrael is that I allowed everyone to start with one uncommon item. He decided to dump strength to 13 for multiclassing, and then picked up gauntlets of ogre strength to put his strength at 19. He is pretty much single-handedly the reason that I now list items and don't just go free reign on every uncommon item, because that just feels like very bad sportsmanship, and just not a good faith choice for min-maxing. He's trying to win against the system. Anyway, yeah, I learned my lesson there. The campaign kicks off with a bang. There's some funny moments, things are seemingly going well. I introduced the character that the random who left was supposed to play, using their in-world death as a catalyst to kick off the adventure and bring the party together. They venture off to the quest that Azrael suggested as the intro quest, the Paladin Order, taking him and Valisar, on a quest to go retrieve some relic for the paladins from an ancient ruin west of the city. My naive self at the time thought he was just being helpful, and hey, I didn't have any other ideas, so sure, let's go find this magic chalice thing or whatever. I tied it into the main plot, easy enough, and it got the ball rolling so it didn't stagnate. More problems arose during the first combat of the campaign. Azrael was a bit too bloodthirsty, going like full Mortal Kombat with his kills. It was a bit infectious too, as when Felani got the last hit, I accidentally narrated it MK finisher style, and my friend had to walk it back like, oh dude, Fel wouldn't do something that gruesome, and then we just all walked it back. Still, in the moment, nothing is going terribly wrong. We finished the introductory arc minus some minor show-stealing moments from Azrael. All in all, it technically wasn't that bad. At the time, at least. I need to also give the context that out of game, he was about 10 to 15 years older than the rest of us, being in his late 30s, while the rest of us were like somewhere in our 20s. Normally, this is not an issue, but it did lead to some cultural differences, I guess we'll say. So let me rapid fire some of the things that in hindsight, these differences were just general problem player mentalities that were led to. I started the campaign trying to automate everything in Foundry with stuff like Midiquil and a module that gave a Solsta style HUD. Eventually, I decided it was too much work, and I blatantly told them, hey, this doesn't need to be a video game. I won't automate this. It seemed like this went in one ear and out the other because every session, he'd get irritated when something wasn't automated. And I specifically told him, it's not gonna be.
Hey, what are you doing there?
Looking at deck of many things cards I'm never gonna use? What are you...
Well, it doesn't look like you're automating our Foundry game. I'm not paying you to sit on your butt.
Yeah, man. Okay, what problem taken care of. We don't have a dungeon master.
Outside of character, it seemed to be going in a downward spiral in his outside of game life because he was drowning himself in games. He was posting about new LFG posts practically every day, and I don't think he had a single day of the week where he wasn't in a game. This eventually led to in-game symptoms of always mixing up his other campaigns with ours and never being able to keep straight on what happened that week because so much other D&D had happened to him in the meantime. Some of it was financial as well. One day he'd be complaining about having to sell something big in order to afford bills, but then the next day he'd be posting about how he was commissioning $200+ character art. I looked at the arts myself, genuinely interested in some for my own characters, but that's roughly what those commission prices were. He was going over hauls of posters and other knickknacks. Look, I'm not one to judge someone's choices because I also buy stuff I don't need when I probably should be saving, but it was hard not to raise eyebrows at this from the sidelines, despite not commenting on it at all. Yeah, I'd never do that. Buying frivolous nonsense when you should be... What? No! Oh god. At the end of the day, I could tell there was stuff going on in real life, and he was using D&D as a distraction from it. On some level, I felt for him. I have struggled with the exact same issues it seemed he was going through. At the time, however, none of us consented to be his therapists, and him using us as this outlet was not fair. The nail in the coffin and the pièce de résistance of this entire story was a session where, thankfully, Ketu's player had to miss. I would have absolutely grabbed popcorn for the show, but I just know she would have blown up on him for what he did, and that's not really the environment I want on my table, as amusing as it would have been to watch. They're back in town at the tavern, recovering from the adventure, when I have a Shadar-Kai NPC walk in. Here is where the mystery mouse Cthulhu comes up. The first words out of Azrael's mouth are, "Does she dress as slutty as Fel?" Thank God I'm a guy. If anyone said that to me, I think I'd die. Our reaction was just like, what? I brush it off. I share the character art. I try to move on. However, this NPC is the one I had used as a link between Azrael and Fel. Basically, everyone had an NPC from their past and an NPC from their present, all NPCs being connected to two characters. So this was Fel's past NPC, but Azrael's present NPC. She was a cleric whose faction worked closely with the paladin faction. Yet again, Azrael just swings from the outfield. Since we're working together, we've probably screwed, right? No, you haven't. Please stop. Oh, and finally, strike 3. As she goes to leave, Azrael attempts to take her hand and kiss her knuckles as a goodbye. I still think I left whatever skin I was wearing at the time in my seat based on how crawled out I was. Because absolutely not. I was so uncomfortable. I am all fine with these types of gestures, but in the context of just everything else, nah. I think for the first time in my life, I truly understood the absolute disgust that women get when a guy snaps a private picture and sends it unprompted. Not sure what to do, he stuck around for a few more sessions before eventually getting the boot. One other weird thing he did after that is that above table, he was trying to basically ask another player if they could teach each other languages that the other didn't know. However, in character, Azrael only said, "Hey, I can teach you this language." And it seemed more like an offer. He then went on big rants about no one liking him. Yeah, bro, wonder why. It's a mystery. It wasn't directed at us, but it was like passive-aggressively about us, for sure. And we just couldn't grasp that someone wasn't being an asshole by playing their character. In universe, no one knew that Azrael wanted to exchange languages. It was only above table talk, so no one was acting on that info in character. Wait, he went on this rant because of the language thing? Are you freaking serious? He just couldn't grasp that we did want a metagame and incorrectly labeled other characters as rude for not reciprocating. We had some sessions we missed, mostly because I, as a DM, didn't really know how to continue after all the outbursts, but also due to other players having IRL stuff. After about 2 missed sessions, I finally sent him a private message detailing that, hey, I don't want to kick you out, but we need to talk about some behavioral changes. I still have the messages and I will put them at the end, but when I shared it with my party after Azrael blew up and left, everyone said I handled it pretty well. Essentially, the moment I sent it though, he was blowing up in general chat saying, "Woe is me, I thought we were fine, I must be so terrible for causing you all this pain." He then deleted all of it, and then posted the following message before dipping. "After some thought, I decided I don't want to be a distraction or take away from anyone's fun, so I'm gonna peacefully bow out. I've had fun. Sorry if I kept anyone else from doing so." I hate when people do this.
Hey, dude, can we talk? Oh, what is it? You know, I just wanted to talk about, you know, your behavior during the game. Like, I really don't want to kick you out, but there's just a couple things that... You want me to leave the group, is that it? Whoa, dude, I will leave the group at once. I'll stop DMing for you. I know you don't want me, you never want me around. That's very clear, okay? I have caused you so much pain, alright? And it's all my fault. It's all my fault, okay?
Keep in mind, this was after his blow up, and was 100% in context a manipulative, woe is me type message. So we continued the campaign without him, and it went pretty strong for a while. It did eventually fizzle out, but I've got a new group I'm DMing for now, and to this day, Azrael is the only Mar in an otherwise perfect record of getting a bunch of random Redditors together to toss some dice and write a collaborative story. This guy isn't full-on horrifying, but he absolutely is frustrating, to say the least. The thing that actually bothered me the most was how Azrael was trying to force the Dungeon Master to automate more stuff in Foundry. Like, not every DM has the technical skills to do that. Not every DM wants to. If you want that to happen, why don't you work on it? It's not mandatory for the game by any means. You're the only one who wants it. Don't force that project on the DM, because it is a lot of work. While the comments he made about someone else's outfit were made about an in-game character, it's still freaking gross. We talked about this on the last episode with someone goggling over a girl's yoga pants, and dude, it's weird. It makes people uncomfortable. In-game, out-of-game, doesn't matter. These guys always say something along the lines of, "Oh, it's just a compliment, what's the big deal?" Bro, it's not a normal type of compliment, and these guys know that. They just don't care. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy this oldie episode of RPG Horror Stories where that guy got all upset about a girl taking a bath. It's linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Is that Tiberius? To let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Farewell.